It's crazy how bad the Cardinals look right now as far as, you gave your general manager an extension, you fire him or he steps down. You give your head coach an extension, you fire him the next season. You
Yeah.
give the quarterback the extension, and there's a caveat that he can't play too many video games. He's got to watch more film. And then he gets hurt. And then he's, and now they get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, which is, some people say he lost a step. I mean, he's a top 3, 4, 5. He's a top wide
Easy.
receiver in the National
Top 5
Football League.
wide receiver. Yes.
He's a potential Hall of Fame candidate when it's all said and done. Any team in the National Football League would be better with him on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Would D-Hop make the Packers? No, I mean, see, we could use a veteran wide receiver. I know he's 100%. A lot of money, but in the world of you put your general manager hat on, AG, and you go, okay, in that world, does it even make sense to consider a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, given what he's going to cost? I mean, does he vault you into any sort of contention at all? Playoffs, division, anything?
I say within a division right now because there's so many loose ends, I say, are moving parts on this team because you got defense that we're going to talk about later. You got Rashard Gary right now. He's questionable on his return because of just knowing when he's going to heal up. And you have a new quarterback. You got young receivers that do have experience. You have 2 receivers that have years under their belt in terms of Hobbs and Watson. But then you have a whole slew of newly drafted receivers that are come in, and somebody's going to break into the starting lineup. I know, it should be that because of competition. Somebody from these young group of receivers should break in. So with all those moving pieces and then online, as we just talked about. So with those moving parts, I don't see nothing other than within that division, maybe being a little stiffer against Detroit, beating the Bears as usual, and then having a game that could then put us, if they could punch out the Vikings as well, then that would be huge. But we know right now the scale is weighing towards Detroit, Minnesota leading this division.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it makes a difference. I was trying to think. I'm going to go through a couple of names for you. Are there any best remaining free agents that would actually put them in a contention for I think Detroit's going to run away with this division. Maybe Minnesota shows. I mean, Minnesota, you just don't know what you're going to get with Kirk Cousins. I really like that they picked up Brian. I think Brian Flores is like the biggest pickup, football player or otherwise, in the NFC North this year. Honestly, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest deal. But let's just go through these. Marcus Peters is out there. Marcus Peters was, for me, for a small window of time, was the best cornerback in the league. He's no longer that. He had an ACL injury 2 years ago. He wasn't the same guy last year. I don't think there's an Eric Stokes issue that we can talk about, or kind of a toss-up. Rasul Douglas, Eric Stokes, what do we have? I don't think Marcus Peters is the answer. What about you?
I like his experience, but it's just we got to see physically. Obviously, you said, the knee is going to hold him off because physically we're going to need him there more than anything. We know when he's on point, that means when he's 100%. Just got to see how far that knee has gone away. Took away some of his talent, some of his speed, some of the aggressiveness as a DB because he's a big DB and he likes to get physical. He likes to get in guys' faces. Will we be able to see that? That's a question you don't know because of the healing and then obviously getting him on that practice field and just age. I'm looking at what else we looking at. If you're looking at DBs or more, I say we fine with running backs. There's about 3 running backs out there: Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel, and Leonard Fournette. We're clear there. We don't need nobody there.
You think about Ndamukong Suh. He's not going to want to come because he wants to go.
Yeah, he's going to wait till Super Bowl time.
But I'm just telling you right now, I've been around Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh is a businessman first.
Yep.
Okay. 100%. That dude, the way he takes care of his body, because he's a Nebraska guy. He's such a freak athlete that he can play. He does a basketball workout. He doesn't even work. I mean, he works out hard. He takes care of himself, but he's not moving weight like we see a lot of dudes do.
Yeah.
He's playing the long game.
Yep.
At this stage in his career, he could step in right now. He'd be your second defensive tackle. I mean, he's at 36 years old. I think he's that good. I don't know if he's not going to come here and he won't make you a contender, but he's that good.
No, you need a lot of things going on to become a contender on this Packer team right now in this division. It'll be a lot. It'll be some miracles. I would say that. Some big plays that we didn't see happening. Big games too.
I think Jadeveon Clowney still hasn't signed yet, right? He still hasn't signed?
He's open. Yep, he's available.
So if he's open, here's my take. I think Jadeveon Clowney was drafted way higher than he should have been. I think that Michigan game or the whatever that
Where
South
he lit
Carolina
up the
game where
running
he hit
back.
that one
Yeah.
play
Yep.
was like he's always been an above average run defender. I think he's a very, very average pass rush specialist. I just don't think he's ever been that good. I've game planned against him a ton. He's a phenomenal athlete, but it's like I just don't think he's gonna bring enough to justify bringing somebody like that in and taking reps away from Agnabari, taking reps away from Van Ness. Like it just doesn't make. I don't know the difference is going to be that big of a. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference.
Yeah, there's not much out there. Yeah, it wouldn't be much of a difference. It almost be a waste because then he's older, and then the next year, what you going to do with him? And now in Gabare, he's young. Rashard Gary's coming off the injury; he'll be refreshed, and so you have the pieces in place. You just got to see how now these Lego pieces going to come together and make it work.
What if Yannick Ngakoue wanted to come to Green Bay? He's good.
Oh yeah, from Indianapolis. Yep, that was there.
Yep,
health wise, yeah,
Raiders guy, Indy guy. Yep. He's good. I've scouted him for the last 3-4 years. He's got a
How
couple
big
moves.
Is he? I'm trying to think of his
small.
size.
He's a lot smaller than you think he is.
Is he like a Avril that was Avril that was in Seattle? Is he like him?
Yeah. He's quicker. He's more linear. Okay. He's got great upfield moves. Chop club rip at the top. He's got an inside club at the top and a stab to a chop. He's still a very good player. I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't been picked up somewhere. I think he's like
must be his size.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe guys just start looking for that. Yeah, because we're running the 3-4. It's like where do you fit him in? He's kind of been a hand down on the ground player for most of his career.
Right.
I just think he's not a good run defender. We're a terrible run defense.
Right, we need that. Yeah, we need
below average.
2 or 3 guys
should be.
2 or 3 guys to help stop the run. Yeah.
Frank Clark's out there. It's kind of the same thing, right? Like
Adrian Amos still available. You know, he's somebody
but he's not available, right? Like they're not bringing him back at this point, right? Do you think?
I mean, no. I'm just saying if we were, like we're talking, there's an option.
Do you somebody think that they would bring Adrian Amos back at this stage? Would you think they would bring Adrian? I mean, because right now it's Darnell and Rudy Ford.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I'm just saying as options out there. There's potential. And will they do it? Probably not.
I wonder if he'd come back. What's that? He'd start immediately, right?
He would start immediately, and he'll already have that. He's already been here. He's a leader. Like people right instantly, it'll just mesh right together with everybody else. Like
AG,
Rudy,
you're up there. What happened there? Like, why didn't he? Why did they get rid of him? Why is it like summarily he's gone when they don't really have options? Like they haven't had high level play there, and he was the best player there.
Right. It came down to what I was seeing is the problem between him. Now it wasn't him, but it was the effects of Savage's gameplay that then led to, because that affected him because he was supposed to be on the back end or whatever, helping him out, and Savage not having his experience of reading routes and all that stuff, being in the right defense when he should, he had one responsibility, didn't do it. He got influenced to pull out of here. That led to, stuff that affected Adrian.
But there wasn't like locker room off the, because you start going like,
I never once heard anything about him. Yeah.
Darnell Savage is a first round pick. So it's like you and I can cross this bridge very quickly. Goody picked out Darnell Savage or, this regime. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt. They're going to keep him, get rid of Adrian. Like we can cross that bridge any day of the week, no matter
that
how
always
the performance
happens.
is. Yeah. But Rudy Ford came in and played pretty well, but you still listen, there's still some limitations as to what your secondary can do with these two guys playing your two starting safeties. And Adrian Amos has been a good player for this team. Did he have a year last year that wasn't his best? Yeah, but I don't know. That is you bring his name up, and I start going like, man, maybe they do bring him back in training camp. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a good thing to have on your back end. If I say your inventory, you're only as good as your next best player. Basically, you could say that, and having him back there wouldn't be a bad deal.
All right, here's the last one I got for you: Teddy Bridgewater.
I wouldn't mind that.
Dude, who's our backup right now?
Exactly. We got to look it up.
Yeah, so I mean,
we got Sean Clifford and Danny Etling, and I like Teddy back there because he's been multiple places. He's led teams to that point where they were just one game there, and then an injury happened or something happened. So he has that type of game and leadership and mindset where if he came off the bench, obviously he'll be coming off the bench in a situation where Jordan Love has a bad game. Where it's to that point, like, hey, let's just sit him. That could happen. And now you put a veteran in that can then motivate. But he's not gonna guy be like, I'm not the starter. I'm just backing him up. I could see him doing that. Where he's like,
Okay.
I'm just backing Jordan Love up to make sure. I had to finish this game for him. He had a bad one. Then boom. Now he's still the starter type of conversation.
Teddy Bridgewater was a rising star in this league until he had that horrific injury.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So with that said, he's got to feel like he's just unfinished business all day, every day, right?
Yeah. 100%.
When you are, and so I'm not disagreeing with you that he maybe mindset wise he's humble enough to be like, all right, this is the kid they've picked, like he's going to start, I'll back him up.
Mhm.
But the problem with a kid like Teddy Bridgewater or a man like Teddy Bridgewater is that he's good enough that if Jordan Love has a string of a bad game, 2 bad games, there's going to be rumblings in the locker room like Teddy Bridgewater can play football for this team. What are we doing? That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem with bringing in a backup who could potentially be a starter.
True.
You know what
You
I
just
mean?
got to be ready for that. Like
Yeah.
as a GM and as a head coach, you got to say to yourself, while you're having this conversation,
Mhm.
you the GM, I'm the head coach. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be ready to deal with that then. I'll be able to handle that for myself. I got to handle this as a head coach. If
Yeah.
that comes into play, I got to be ready for that, because with that situation you just explained
Mhm.
has happened and most likely can happen if you bring Teddy Bridgewater in as a backup.
So this is different than, like, let's say the Niners, where they have Brock Purdy, who's the last pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And then they had Jimmy G or Trey Lance. Like, they have guys that have been there, and nobody thinks that Brock Purdy's going to be able to play, and he's a short-term solution. And then that's one thing. Or like Jimmy G's gone, so they already got rid of Trey Lance, or they already drafted Trey. Trey got hurt. Jimmy's back. He gets, you start. That's completely different than I decided that Jordan Love is going to replace 30 years of Hall of Fame talent or 15 years of Hall of Fame talent.
Yeah.
That's a totally different, like, we've chosen, this is the guy that's going to do it.
It's going to be somebody if it wasn't Jordan. Just know that.
You're absolutely right about that, bro. But I guess if it was me, I'd be like, hey, Jordan Love's our guy. And oh, by the way, I'm going to bring the biggest shit. I'm going to bring the shittiest backup quarterback I can find. I'm going to bring a running back who can throw the football. He's our backup. In other words, we are going to live and die with this kid, because I can't be, like, as a general manager and a head coach right now, I can't be wrong.
True. And that's that pressure, I say, is up to that person. Like if Gutekunst or that GM wants to have that type of pressure, they better know how to handle it. Because if they don't, it's gonna handle them, pretty much.
I think it could be. I think it could be a big problem, man. I mean,
it could be.
It has blown up franchises before, right? Now, I don't think there's two things that sometimes I sound like I'm down on Jordan Love, and I'm not at all. I just know this is a big moment in the.
Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff going on,
right?
That can happen between here now and the first regular season game.
Me personally, I'm more interested in what this means as a reflection of, like, how Matt LaFleur is gonna deal with not having Brett. Or not having Aaron. I just think that's the most interesting storyline, really. Like, not the players, because the players going to adapt. I think the way the coaching staff has to adapt is going to be super interesting.
Exactly. We're going to see how LaFleur and his coaches, are they coaches? We're going to find this out this season.